Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jump Music Initiative podcast. Today I have with me a very special guest, Marshall, and my co-host, Lisa Jacobs.
Hey, what's going on?
So to give you a short introduction, Marshall is an Emmy Award-winning songwriter and Juno Award-winning artist. Formerly of Walk Off the Earth, singer-songwriter, producer, Marshall is a multi-platinum recording artist. He is an Emmy Award-winning songwriter, has #1 hits on Billboard AAA, along with multiple Canadian Music Awards, Juno Award, Streamy Award, SOCAN Award, YouTube Music Award, and has multiple cuts with top 40 artists across the world. Amazing. So welcome.
Thank you.
Woohoo! You got that all in one breath, Maddie. Impressive.
The first thing I wanted to ask you was how you got into the industry and where it is that you are at now. How would you describe your role in the industry now?
First, can I just comment on Lisa's little dance that she does while things are happening? It's like, I want to know what music you're actually hearing in your ears when you're doing like.
Oh my God, it's joy. It's just like a joy dance. It's embarrassing. I didn't realize I was doing that.
there's music of joy happening at all. It's like when people have kids and now and then they always just rock like this to rock the baby. It's like for no reason. You just see a random dude standing on the corner just rocking. You're like, you have kids. In music, well, why music? I started Walk Off the Earth in 2006 with Johnny and another guy named Pete. But before that, I was in like this ska type reggae, like not reggae, but like ska, let's call it ska band called Pink Belly that I started in university. And before that, I was in just like an acoustic cover band with another dude. Before that, I played euphonium, like baritone, mini tuba. Yeah, I started that in grade 6 and went all the way through to the end of high school. So I was a brass dude. I know the low end. I know the back end like you, Lisa. Like we know how to hold it down.
Pegged you for a trumpet player for sure. How have we never talked about this?
I switched to trumpet once I got into the ska band because it was just a lot easier to carry from gig to gig.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna require a euphonium solo at some point in our lives together.
I still dabble. I can dabble. But sorry, Maddie. I mean, I got so caught up in going backwards rather than forwards in chronological order. What was the second half of that question?
Yeah, so how you got started and then how that leads you to where you're at in the industry now.
Yeah, so what's funny is I didn't even pick up a guitar until I was first year university. I was one of those people that just didn't go to class. So I was living in a dorm and the dude across from me, his name Jesse, he had an acoustic guitar and I just kind of grabbed it and started learning off the internet. And then realized I had no idea where I was in the song. So then I had to start singing it. And then I had, I'm a huge Bob Dylan type Neil Young folk music fan. So I bought myself a harmonica and one of those little neck strap things and started doing that. And within a year I was playing, just like bar gigs, like cover bar gigs and stuff. So that was my way in. And I just haven't really wanted to look back since. It took a long time for music to pay the bills, to replace all the other jobs. But it's been a really fun ride.
Awesome. I heard that you now produce yourself, all your own music, and you learned to do that on your own. What was that process like? Did you face any challenges in trying to do that yourself, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of musicians produce on their own. It's just hard to get good at it. And so I was always trying to do it the whole way along. Like I started using Pro Tools in like 98 or 99 or something. And I had no idea what was going on. I just knew there was a couple of things I knew I could record my voice, but everything sounded like crap. And then I would say sometime around 2017, 2018, really. Yeah, no, I moved down to Manhattan Beach, California, like LA area, in 2015. And by that point, I was producing a lot of stuff on my own. but I didn't know if it was good or not. And there's one, it's one thing about producing, and then it's also another thing about like getting to a finished product. A lot of people can produce demos. The hard part is being able to produce the finished product. And what you learn along the way is like, you can get it to a great spot, but you still need to bring in other people. Like Lisa knows one of, our good friends is Spencer Shane, he's nominated for the Western Canada producer awards, or whatever it is, music awards for best producer. But I met Spencer through Jocelyn Alice, another mutual friend, and needed someone like that to be able to get that finished product. But until you realize that you can use somebody like that, I think a lot of people get frustrated along the way. You're like, man, I'm trying to produce this all by myself, but it doesn't sound finished. Like, what do I do? So that was a learning curve for me, was being able to say, okay, I can get it this far and I'm still the producer, and then use somebody else to mix and master.
I love your producing. It's so great. It's so good on the tracks that you do for yourself and for other people. Maybe I'm biased, but I love it. You have such a great ear for all of that.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've been in bands for basically all of your music career, and now you are doing the solo artist thing. How is the journey as a solo artist? How's it been going?
So the band, right? Marshall started as a way of just getting music out that didn't fit into the Walk Off the Earth mold, right? I was writing stuff that was kind of Bon Iver-esque and digitally weird, and it didn't fit. So I had a publishing deal with Cobalt when I was in LA. And so we were pitching some of it, and it was one of those things where I didn't know if I wanted to hear somebody else's voice on these songs. It was kind of like, yeah, this sounds cool with the way that I have it. And so if it's not going to make its way into anyone else that's going to be able to basically mimic what I'm doing, let's just keep it in my voice. And so really Marshall just started as, okay, here's these demos. This music's pretty dope, and let's try and pitch it for TV and film so that it would just be heard. And that didn't go the way I thought, because this is another conversation, but I've learned a lot in the last couple of years. There's a certain mold that has to fit for TV and film, and the stuff that I was doing didn't really fit. So I said, okay, well then I'll just release it, and if some of the Walk Off fans like it, cool, and if other people like it, cool. But I was at a point in that part of my life where I didn't really care if anyone liked it or not. I liked it, and so I just wanted to get it out. And so that was the whole reason why Marshall started. It wasn't like I had this big, I gotta be the main guy in the middle of the stage. Like, I want the attention. I love being in a band. I love not having to sing the whole time. It's so good. Like Lisa, we only played one Marshall show together, and there were multiple times in the one show, and I'm just like, okay, can you just take the middle of the stage? Like, I don't want it the whole time. Just like, I don't want this. So yeah, it was never that type of thing. It was always about just getting music out that I had written and that I thought my voice belonged on.
Amazing. I wanted to jump in. I heard you talk about pitching. So for all the young artists out there, what exactly is a pitch, and maybe what goes into a successful pitch? Just some of the key elements.
Yeah. So there's different versions of that too, right? Like if you're pitching to another artist, that you're just writing the best song you can, or sometimes people deliberately go in and say, hey, like Miley Cyrus needs a new song. We've heard it through the grapevine, and so let's write something that we think she might like. And then the people on your team, sometimes it's a publishing company, management, whatever, they're going to take that song if we all think it's great enough, and they're going to send it to Miley's team and say, hey, we think it might be cool if Miley sang this. What do you think about it? Do you want to change it? Do you like it? Yes or no? That's a pitch to try and get somebody to cut your song. And then there's other worlds where you're just pitching for what's basically called sync work, right? And so if we're doing the educational moment in the podcast, that's just getting something on TV and film. So there's publishing teams, and there's other teams, boutique type teams that license music, and they all specialize in different things. And so if you have a good team that like I do now, Secret Road, they're awesome. But yeah, if you have a good team that knows how to pitch music to sync, they have there's a certain style, not even style. If you're pitching a TV and film, it's got to fit for TV and film. So it's one of two things. One, it's got to be recognizable. So it's going to be some huge band and you're watching a show that the demographic is 15 to 20-year-old, and so Machine Gun Kelly songs can show up because it's recognizable. Or it sounds like it's supposed to be there. You might have never heard of the artist before, but that song sounds like it's supposed to be there, like you're watching a Jeep commercial and it feels like what it sounds like to drive a Jeep. You know, they're like, yeah, I'm going up a hill and here we like, it's gonna fit that thing or whatever that music supervisor is looking for.
So have you been writing a little more in that vein for it to fit TV stuff? Are you doing a little bit of all of it?
Yeah, so when COVID knocked the crap out of most of the music industry, I had already started veering that way. Like I said, the original Marshall stuff was always geared towards TV film. I didn't do it right. The vibe was right, the lyrics weren't right. It just didn't fit. So unless Marshall would have got massive and it fit into that recognizable category, it didn't really have a chance at TV and film. But I mean, a lot of the stuff that I do, the walk-off stuff that I did, and then I'll take a song like This Is It. It's anthemic and it's big and it's, stadium size and it's positive. And that's the original walk-off stuff, like Red Hands, Rule the World, like all those big, that's got my stamp on it. And that's what I do. So yeah, it was easy for me to say, okay, I'm just going to go back to what I know how to write and find the right company that knows how to work that style of music. And I signed a deal with Secret Road in LA, and we've been working together for almost, just under a year.
Amazing. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about building a fan base. So obviously when you set out on your own, comes with the territory of kind of finding your niche group of people, finding dedicated fans. And for young artists out there who are releasing music, what's the process of building a dedicated fan base? For example, having hundreds of people listen 10 times versus having thousands of people listen once could be a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, there's just such a million different ways to answer that question. Walk Off got involved with YouTube before most people knew what YouTube was. And so it's just like anything. If you're in early, then you grow with it as it grows. And we were lucky is a good word. We were lucky enough our fan base was naturally building because YouTube's fan base was naturally building. And we were just doing stupid, goofy little covers. And the whole, it's funny when people talk about Walk Off and YouTube and trying to understand what actually happened. And say you're going to a concert and it's a band you've never heard before, and then they play a cover song and you're like, oh, that's cool. I like that version of that cover song. Okay, now I'm going to listen to the rest of this band because I like how they did that. As soon as you throw something at you that's recognizable, then you can kind of go, oh, I like how they did that. Let me listen to their original stuff. So we reached a point, and Johnny and I reached a point in Walk Off where like, we don't want to get in a white tour van and drive across Canada to play 7 shows. Like, we don't want to do that. How can we reach as many people as we can without doing that? And this is what we came to, is like, let's just keep throwing cover songs at people that they can say, hey, that's cool. Now listen to your original music. And we had 2 original albums out at that time. So YouTube grows, we grow with it while we're doing these things. And then, the perfect storm hits and Walk Off blows up. Now, how to mimic that these days? I don't know. Like, what's the next YouTube? TikTok did it, right? TikTok did it for how many? Like Old Town Road is because of TikTok. There's so many artists that have blown up on TikTok because they got in early, or it became viral with some of their music, and now TikTok is kind of up here, and now TikTok is just as important as Spotify and the radio and all the things. So, what's the next thing? what's a way for an indie artist to get their music so that it naturally grows with whatever that thing is, because it's impossible for not, it's not impossible. It's 1 in a million for an unknown artist to get their music on the radio these days. You have to have record label support. You have to do all these things. It's very rare for them to just blow up on some huge playlist. There's a better chance if it's on TikTok. So, I mean, if I was to advise people, it would be write music that works for TikTok. And then if that works and that brings them to the rest of your music, that formula will always work. It works in concerts, it works in digital, it works in every format. If someone finds something that they like of you, they'll check out the rest of it.
That is good advice, Marshall. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Is that okay?
Please. I feel
Okay.
like I've been talking a lot. Let's listen to you talk.
Well, your job right now is to talk. So
Oh. Okay.
no one wants to hear me. Okay. So people have been, it's been a tough year for a lot of people. And I think there's been a lot of loss, and a little while ago, you lost your friend, Taylor.
Yeah.
And well, the beard guy from Walk Off, and your
So
friend.
many good names he had.
I know, he really did. And so I'm just wondering, like, what's your journey been like with grief and loss? And do you have any kind of wisdom to impart to everybody who are dealing with similar kinds of things?
Yeah, wisdom's a tough one to try and give to people when that type of thing hits you. I think it's just sharing experience that allows people to know, okay, I'm not the only one that's ever felt this crappy or has, hit these lows. Mike was a massive loss to me. I don't know if I've had a bigger loss than that. When people tour, when bands tour, the amount of the way that Walk Off did, and there's hundreds and thousands of people out there that tour the same way that we did. But you're in a van, you're in a bus, you're in all these things for 150, 200 days. You're with these people more than you're with their family. And so Mike was like a brother. We were really close. And so that was really tough. I had just put out my own solo album a couple months before that. He was super supportive of it. He would say, hey, if you're going to be touring this stuff, then that means you're not going out on a walk-off tour. And that means that I'm not going to be out on a walk-off tour because it's not. So I'll just come with you. I'll play keys for you. Like, let's just do this. Let's just tour the world doing Marshall stuff. And, and then 3 months later, he's gone. And it rocked the crap out of me. I don't know. It's funny when you try and think of like what that certain time of my life, how it affected all my decisions up to this point. Like it was that a bigger part of the reason why I was okay with walking away from Walk Off the Earth to follow different pastures or how, whatever I want to call it. I'm sure it was. What it does is it puts life in perspective. A buddy of yours that was perfect health, yeah, he's 50, but he's pumping more iron and doing more. Like he was super fit, always happy. He lived a great life, and couldn't have been. There's not many nicer people, genuine people. He was a relationship guy, like he believed that it's like in sales, right? A lot of people, I have the best product. I can just, I have the best product, so I can sell you the best product. It's not always like that. You got to like the person that you're buying it from. And Mike believed in that. Like he had his own successful transportation brokerage company. And Mike was really successful in life outside of music. And because he was that type of dude, right? Like as soon as someone met him, whether it was a fan, whether it was a venue coordinator, whoever it was, the dude at the gas station that's selling him the box of gum that he's buying, like whatever it was, everyone loved this guy. Like he was just the nicest guy in the entire world, and everyone loved him. And so when you lose somebody like that, it affects a lot of people. And I didn't want to get back on stage. I didn't. We Walk Off took 3 3 months, for 3 or 4 months until we did the memorial concert or tour. And that was the first time I ever, what would you call it? That was the first time I ever had some sort of anxiety attack. I'd never had anything like that in my life. I was standing on stage, we're playing a song, and the show started. And I think we opened with Fire in My Soul. And so I'm the first one that has to sing. And I remember I was sweating. My entire body was just covered in sweat. But no one knew what was going on. But my entire body is covered in sweat. And I'm trying to play guitar. I have no idea if I know the words or not. And I don't remember the whole first half of the song until Johnny took the second verse. And then I remember stepping away from the mic and being like, I don't know if I can play the show. I don't think I can finish this show. And I walked over to like Liebold or something, because he was kind of set up behind me where I was. And I was like, dude, I'm freaking out. Like, I don't know what to do. And he said something to me. I would have a couple shots of whiskey that were right beside the drum kit all the time. So I went over, took a couple shots of whiskey and finished the song. And then literally had to walk off stage I was lucky. This is what comes back to me not needing to be the center of the stage all the time. Like, it was great. The next song, I think Sarah started singing, or Johnny, whatever, whoever, but it wasn't me. And I just had to go over to the side of the stage, and I was just gone for like 30 seconds, minute, and then came back and was able to finish the show. And every show started the same for the next couple of weeks. It wasn't as bad. The first time was always the worst. It never got that bad. But grief does crazy things to you, man. It does crazy, crazy things, because you look back and he's not there, and you're like, why am I here then? You know. That's all I got. Or I'll start like crying or something.
I really appreciate you sharing a little bit of that. Yeah. Thank you, Marshall. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about yourself as a songwriter, and totally switching gears, but what was your songwriting process like when you worked with Walk Off, and maybe how did that differ from you as a solo artist?
You know, I think it's different every time. It really doesn't have to do with me more than it has to do with the song. And so I started writing in a way that was just like, let's just write the best song we can. We get some chords and let's just write an awesome song. I don't care what it has to be about. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever comes out, let's just do it. And that produced some great stuff. But it also created a lot of crap. And I kind of learned over the years to try and hone in on a few things, right? Is there a concept that we already know? Is there a sound and direction? Let me go back on myself for a second. So Walk Off the Earth, for example, is kind of genre defying, right? Like it can kind of do whatever it wanted to do, because you got 3 different singers. You can hit a bunch of different keys, bunch of different ranges. And they did so many cover songs that we could move from pop to reggae or whatever, you know, pretty seamlessly. And with the style of production that Walk Off did, it still ended up sounding like pop music. So there was a lot of freedom when writing for Walk Off. You know, I guess the easy answer here is writing for Walk Off, there was a lot of freedom. I could do whatever I wanted. Writing for myself or other projects, sometimes your brain has to consider, okay, but this is the genre and this is the style that I need to stick into. Otherwise, I'm just writing a song that's going to sit on a hard drive.
Oh, this is not what I was expecting you to say at all. That you almost have more parameters when you're writing for yourself.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, again, like the original Walk Off stuff, the original Marshall stuff, I just wrote. I didn't have parameters for it. But you create a genre for yourself. And are you willing to go outside of that? And if you are, how far? And so if you do diverse from that, then what are you doing to your project? you have a fan base because of that sound. What are you doing to that fan base? And yeah, fan bases will follow you once they're loyal. But if you haven't developed your fan base yet, well, you can't just have one rock song, one reggae song, one ballad, one hip hop track. You can,
Yeah.
but you're not gonna. I don't think it's fair to the fans to do that, to be honest.
When you go into like a session where you're writing either by yourself or with other people, do you kind of go in with the mindset, okay, this is what kind of give yourself those parameters going into it? Or is your mindset more, I'm going into the session, I'm going to write what comes and see where it fits, and maybe we'll do something with it later? Or kind of what do you go into it thinking?
Yeah, I mean, let's take Jocelyn Alice, for example, right? So the first few times I wrote with Joss, I would listen to what her newest stuff was, what her old stuff sounded like, and get a feel for what type of music is going to work for her project. And then once I've put that little block in my brain, then now I allow it to be free. But it knows that it has to stay within this little box of who Jocelyn Alice is, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I also wanted to ask you a little bit about developing a music release plan as a young artist. So what kind of steps, for someone who maybe hasn't done it before, what steps go in before you release your music? And then what are the main things that come after?
My God, that has changed
It's
so many times.
big.
It's like, I'm aging myself, but it's just so different now to the 2000s. Right. There was just so much thought put into, okay, we have to wait until there's at least 8 to 10 songs ready. We have to release a single. After we release that single, we got to wait 3 months to see how it performs. If it performs well, we're waiting 6 months until the next single. If it doesn't, then we drop that second single. But either way, we're waiting 6 to 8 months before that album, EP, whatever it is, drops. And those 2 songs would obviously be on that. And that would be because there were multiple things that you needed those songs to do. You needed to do a music video. You would drop the song a couple of weeks later. You would release a music video a couple of weeks later. Radio would have caught up now, and now you're getting radio push. These things don't really exist anymore for 95% of the music industry. That top 5% that is what we hear on the radio all the time, and top 40 music and whatever it is. They still follow that, call it parameters or whatever it is. They still follow that mold. But then you get people just coming out of nowhere, like Beyonce, with no information given. Hey, here's a 30 song album. I'm dropping it now. And that's it. And everyone just deals with it and figures it out on the way. But it's just so much different now. Like, people have this is the cat. I sound like the old dude. Like, the internet's ruined the world. No one listens to music properly anymore. But it kind of is true. Like, people have zero attention span, and so I would always talk about Walk Off like it was through. What was it? 3D music. I can't remember. I don't know. But 3D music, I would call it, because or 4D. Anyways, the whole point is that it's not just audible anymore, it's visual. And when you're listening to a song, you're typically also watching some sort of video with it, whether it's TikTok or even if it's just a lyric video. But everyone's on their phone, everyone's on their computer. Music isn't just 2D anymore, it's 3D. And so how do you release music in a way where the old way that was, okay, you drop a track, then you wait 2 weeks and you release a music video? Well, no. You have to release a music video when you drop the track, because that's probably your best marketing plan for that song. So now it's all about singles. Like, I love people that release albums, but a lot of the time, unless you're that top 5%, the songs on your album are going to be lost. People aren't going to hear them because they're not going to get pushed on the DSPs, which is Spotify and Apple Music and the rest of it. They're not going to get the love that a single would be, and it's going to be your super fans that really have to dive in and go find that music, because it's really hard to find digitally unless it's released as a single. So what would I suggest for people? Just drop as many singles as you can. Content, put it out as much as you can. Get some sort of visual to go to it, and just hope it works out. Write the best music that you can.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Marshall, for sharing lots of advice and also your personal experience with loss. I think that's really important for young musicians to hear, and I think people will benefit from hearing that. We have a segment on the show that we do called Desert Island Albums, and I'd like to ask you, if you were trapped on a desert island, what 3 could be albums or musical works of any sort that you would take with you?
You know, this is very similar to, I started listening to vinyls in the last couple of years, and it's got me back into listening to full albums. And also, you really you gotta commit to putting a vinyl on, because you're only gonna 4 songs, then you gotta go flip it over and you get 4 more songs. And you only want to have so many of them because they're freaking expensive. But I would take Bon Iver for Emma. I would take that album with me. I would bring the greatest hits of Eddie Arnold, and I would probably want to bring something that has like a lot of energy for those days where like you just don't want to be depressed that you're stuck on a desert island alone. So I would bring something like the original Rage Against the Machine album, I think.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And lastly,
one of all, like, I need like multiple opportunities. It's like, today is this day. The next day, I'm just gonna start swearing at everyone.
Yeah, that was like a perfectly curated, like all the emotions in all the albums. Like you touch base on all of them. Yeah, totally.
Oh my God.
Well done. Well done.
Amazing.
Thank you.
And lastly, I wanted to ask if there's one piece of, could be 1 or 2 pieces of advice that you would want to leave off with the next generation of young musicians.
Be honest with yourself. Don't try and do it because it's what you're hearing right now. Don't try and do it because it's what you think you're supposed to. Just do it because you want to.
I like it.
Perfect. Thanks, Marshall.
All right.
Thank
No
you
problem.
So good
so
to have
much.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, see you later.